Next, from the state capitol, we speak with State Representative Jim Watson, who served in Iraq on projects to strengthen Iraqi democracy. We'll get his reaction to the recent Iraqi elections and how lessons in Iraq may be applied to Afghanistan. This runs about 7 minutes. Representative Jim Watson, thanks for joining us on the Illinois Channel. Our viewers may not recall that you, as a sitting legislator, spent a tour of duty in Iraq and actually were helping, kind of bridging both your military experience and your lawmaking experience as a legislator, helping the Iraqis develop some of their democratic infrastructure. Remind us a bit of what you did, and then I'd like to get your comments on your reaction of where Iraq is today. Let me first start off, tell us what you did, but also tell us when you were there again.
Well, it was 2008 from February to August, and primarily what I did was work with the governance section of a civil military affairs unit. So I basically worked with the general of the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force, MNF West, and the Speaker of the House, so to speak, the provincial council chairman for the Anbar province, which was the Sunni province, and a lot of problems there, Fallujah and Ramadi. And then also with the State Department, the PRT. So tried to work with those varying groups to try to help them build some type of infrastructure in Anbar. And as far as where they're at today, I mean, I was intrigued by the fact that when we had our primary, I think we had 25%, 28% turnout. When they just finished their elections, they were pushing 65 to 70% turnout. So, in one aspect, out of all that pain, out of all that sacrifice, you can say that they certainly like the participatory process that we've helped, teach them.
With what appears to have been, or appears to be, a fairly successful turnaround over there, to what extent are you keeping track of what's going on? Are you still in the military? I mean, do you still get any feedback from those you work with as far as beyond what we're hearing in the news media?
Yeah, I still have friends that are in the old unit that I was in, and I still have a friend who works for the State Department who still is in Iraq. And yeah, I think everybody's happy. Everybody is as happy as can be. It was a pretty gloomy prospect at one time in 06 and 07. And that gives you hope. You look at a mess that we have here on a much less violent, but much more on a smaller level. But with the right strategy, with the right people, you can turn the worst things around. So it was an experience I will never forget, and that will stay with me for a long time.
This might be an unfair question, but we're looking at the Iraqi experience. A lot of times we hear people compare the surge of Iraq to now President Obama's surge in Afghanistan, and I may have misspoke, but can we compare what we did in Iraq to the Afghani experience? To what extent can we, or in your estimation, to what extent is that apples and oranges?
No, I don't know as much about Afghanistan because I have not been there. I mean, I know what I've read. I know what some of the guys were reading as they prepared to go over and deploy. But yeah, in general, I think some of those same principles are there. That you need more boots on the ground if you're going to fight a counterinsurgency. I mean, there are ratios you have to have, and there are a certain number of boots on the ground that have to be there. So, I kind of respect the president for going ahead, probably against his base, and pushing for that third. But we will see. I mean, geographically, Afghanistan is much more broken up. They have probably 4 or 5 times more tribes than they do in Iraq. They don't have any infrastructure. I mean, there are a lot of challenges there. It's going to be a much more difficult fight and a much more hard. It's a harder road to go in those ways.
When you were there and working with them, did you get the impression that this is an impossible task, or were you encouraged by working with them that there was a real desire for within the Iraqi government to go to a democratic process?
I think it's a lot like here. You find people that are statesmen that want to do the right thing and want to work for it, and then you found others that just wanted to work the system, so to speak. I will say this, that I think in the end we did have an impact, and we get to help them develop their own founding fathers of what we hope is some type of their own brand of democracy. And the public got involved, and that's the key. That the fact that they have such a high turnout is a good sign, and you see that hunger for that type of involvement in Iran and with these protests. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that they've seen what's happened in Iraq and wanting to have a taste of that.
That's always been one of the arguments. If we had a democracy in the Arab world, it might really be a game changer and perhaps have dominoes work in our favor. Before we let you go, and we know you have to get along, here we are, March the 24th. Talk about working in combat situations. What's going on here in the state capitol? What's the environment? And in a very tough effort to put together a state budget, just give us a sense of the feeling as far as you can get a lay of the land.
Well, first of all, I don't think any politician, any elected official should sugarcoat it. This is horrible. This is, a $13 billion deficit on a $26 billion budget is bad news, and then there's going to be some pain, and it's a matter of how do we spread that around. We're in a time of limited resources, right? So how do you effectively allocate those resources in the most judicial and the most effective way possible? I don't think, look, we're all going to criticize, we all have our favorite projects or whatever, but some things will be cut. It's pretty partisan in the House right now. It seems to be, a lot of R&D battling going on. I can say that I think Governor Quinn has set a pretty good tone for working with people. I don't agree with everything. Of course, he doesn't agree with everything I do, but biggest concern I would have is that we just do a 6-month budget and go home and then come back in November. I would hope that we could all work together to try to instill some fiscal restraints, some spending reforms, maybe make some strategic cuts, and if we can do those things, look at revenues that we need to move forward. That takes leadership, and that takes people willing to work together. It takes trust, and it's really going to take a lot from the second floor, from the governor's office, to try to pull this together.
All right, Representative Jim Watson, thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Good to see you.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.